afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Real Estate with Ryan. As always, on a Saturday, glad to be with you. If you're tuning in for the first time, my name is Ryan Coleman, host of Real Estate with Ryan, and usually my partner in crime, Miss April Coleman's in the studio, but she couldn't be here today, so you got me solo on a Saturday as we're approaching that time. Is it hard to believe we just changed our studio a little bit? We changed the backdrop. We're missing a little bit of our garland, a little bit of the tree. So we'll have that all set up for you next time. But it's a couple weeks from Christmas. How wild is that? And if you're have kids like mine, she can't wait. And if you're the parents, it's coming too quickly. And business, we're closing the end of the year. And how do you manage all that? It's just the crazy ending of the year. But it's a good part of time. And it's helping a lot of people and reflecting on what's important, and so glad to be with you guys. As always, Real Estate with Ryan. Got a good show for you. Hope everybody's been doing well. Hope everybody had their fun on the Black Friday marathon and maybe got your shopping done a little bit earlier this year. We did a little bit of our shopping. We're probably ahead of the time, but don't be surprised if you don't see me on Christmas Eve, a couple of days before the season is over, out there getting that last-minute gifts. That's just me, and that seems like it never fails. I think we're probably on track for that this year, but maybe a step above 2018. We'll just see. So, got a good show for you. We're going to highlight something new here, Real Estate with Ryan. We're going to highlight a neighborhood in the area, and we're going to showcase it in a few minutes and tell a little bit about that. And we're going to go throughout the area region. We'll go to Loudon. We'll go to Knoxville. We'll go to all the little areas throughout East Tennessee. And we'll talk about some of the great subdivisions we have. So if you guys are thinking about buying or selling, or maybe you're not familiar with that subdivision, we'll talk about that. So we got a good featured neighborhood in our own backyard in West Knoxville. We'll talk about Crippled Mule. That's 622 Crippled Mule. That's the property we have over in that neighborhood. So I said, why not start with the great neighborhood of Fox Den? That's right, Fox Den Community. Telling you about that neighborhood. And if you haven't seen our exclusive listing over there on 622 Cripple Mule, it's a luxury estate. It's on the golf course. It's a beautiful one. Check it out. But let's talk about Cripple Mule and why that's so I keep saying Cripple Mule. I keep thinking about that property. It must be in the zone to sell Cripple Mule and Fox Den. But let's talk about Fox Den and why that's such a great area. We've got over 500 custom homes in the Fox Den community. This was originally developed back in the 1960s by Chester Massey, Jim Ferguson, and J.B. Lambert. I don't know if you heard of those names, but they developed Fox Den and the Village. And it was one of the first planned communities throughout of Knoxville. We have beautiful tree-lined streets, pristine ponds, cul-de-sacs. A lot of these homes were built in the 1970s and the 80s, and the price range in there is wide. We go from $200,000, as we just mentioned about Cripple Mule, in excess of $1 million in that community. We have a new clubhouse that was back in 1995. It was a 34,000 square foot clubhouse. We've got 7 tennis courts throughout. We've got 18-hole championship golf course. We've got a junior Olympic swimming pool, fitness center, dining, and so much more to offer. I mean, the community is great. The neighbors are great. There's several large parks and soccer fields close by within just minutes of Fox Den. We're minutes from Turkey Creek and shopping, and we're super convenient to the interstate. So if you're thinking about a neighborhood, a planned community, we have a lot of people that are relocating from out of town, listening to the radio, or not familiar with what Fox Den has. It has a lot of character. A lot of those homes were beautifully done, and you want to check out Fox Den. If you're looking for communities, I'll give you our website, and we have the community page on Fox Den. We did a nice little aerial video that we did of the community. So if you're relocating and kind of want to know a little more about that, go to homesaroundknoxville.com, and we've got some of the community spotlights throughout East Tennessee, and you may want to check that out about Fox Den. So Fox Den neighborhood, if you're thinking about relocating or have an upscale neighborhood that you want to be in, definitely want to check out Fox Den. So our topic today, a good one, we're going to talk about how do you know it's the right time when to purchase, no matter what, whether you're buying your first home or maybe you're buying your forever home and, this is the last move. It's one of those things where this is the last home and I'm never leaving. I'm never doing the packing thing again. And so this is it. So how do you decide when is the right time to buy? With the real estate market now, It's kind of been volatile. We did a little article the other day, and we said that the inventory is just not picking up with the supply. And so we got about 3.9 months of supply and inventory on the market, which is not much. Doesn't seem like we're chatting with our marketing team today. That just doesn't seem like the inventory, the selection is there for the buyers coming on the market. So what do you do on the frustration? You don't want to be that buyer that you want to force into something, and maybe it's not the right fit for you. But then it also seems like over the last 18 months that we've not had the right properties come out, or some have come out and they're gone quicker than we can get to them. So I don't know what the deciding factor is, but I'd say it's all preference and what you're deciding. A lot of times when you're moving, a lot of motivation comes to it. There's a lot of times where we have to move, whether we're being relocated or we're downsizing for health reasons or a combination of factors. And then we kind of got our buyers that are eventually going to be sellers and they kind of want to. And a lot of those are factoring in with the real estate market interest rates. The interest rates are really a phenomenal time to purchase. If you're going to borrow money, why not do it at the lowest time ever in a decade? Probably in ever, right? We've been in the 2.75 to maybe 3.5 interest rate. We're probably never going to see that again, at least in my lifetime, but you never know. So why not take advantage of that? With the interest deductions that the IRS will allow you to have, gives you an opportunity to maximize the most and kind of move up in your home search. You can finance a whole lot more money and for less payment, which is good. Owning a home has a lot of advantages. It also has some disadvantages. So you really have to, kind of weigh those in when you're thinking about buying or selling, because usually a lot of our buyers have a home to sell, and so you have to weigh both of those. But if you're getting into the market, first thing you want to talk about is making sure you understand how much debt that you have and how much your housing payment can allow for that. I think the biggest thing most buyers overlook is the budget. So it's easy in a marketplace where we can borrow money and it's very inexpensive. But remember, with a home comes a lot of hidden costs that you don't see. Let's say you're renting or you have another home and you've kind of updated that home to all the bells and whistles and you've taken care of the roof a couple of years ago and you've maintained it well. But by moving, you're inheriting somebody else's problem or somebody else's new series of problems. What do you do with those? And so you want to make sure you allow enough budget that is allocate for these repairs. So we look at our debt, we look at our personal loans, and these are things no matter what price range you're at, but you want to look at that and make sure that you're in the range. Let's talk about, the credit factor. How does that play into the mortgage market today, and how are the lenders adjusting with the market? Well, since the mini recession that we had several years ago, the banks have kind of eased off the restrictions. I remember back when the market was changing, it was a little bit rough, and the banks were setting credit scores at a really, really strict timeline. So unfortunately, if you had any kind of hiccup, a divorce, or unfortunately a medical bill or something, it doesn't take but one or two items, to get on your credit that, you're a perfect credit paying customer, right? But one thing or one hiccup that just wasn't yours, and your FICO goes down several points. And so it made it very challenging back then when the market did correct to have the financing in place. But a lot of that has eased over the last 12 months, I'd say last 18 months, and made it more affordable. All your government loans are out there. So I think that the overall health of the market has helped the mortgage. Check your credit score. We always talk about that. And again, I don't care what price range you're buying. When you're dealing with the lenders and in the marketplace, by having the stronger credit score and knowing where you're at gives you a lot of negotiating power. So knowing that the credit scores could range as low as, they go on down to 450 or 400s. You're not getting a mortgage there in that range. But ideally, 820 is where you want to be. That's kind of, you're kind of killing it with that 820 score. But, in the marketplace today, you want to probably be 660, 675 and plus to get the best financing as well. Now, lenders look at that, and the higher your FICO score, the better chances are that you're going to get the best interest rate. There's always a question whether you pay points, pay discount points. Those are preference. I say you never pay points. You pay 0, 0, a 0, 0, 0 origination, 0 discount. But look at that. Sometimes it makes sense to do a buy down. It's all about what you can negotiate and make sense. That's why we always encourage, you have a couple opinions. And then as we come here on the side of the break, we're talking about your down payment. It will probably be the biggest factor in deciding what the best interest rate available. Remember, the larger the down payment, the stronger you are to the lender, and you can get the best type of financing, especially if you could avoid that mortgage insurance. So we'll talk more about that as we come on the side of the break. Make sure you stay with us. We're talking about when do you know it's the right time to buy a house? Stay with us.
When it comes to the real estate market, turn to the experts that focus on you. With over 20 years experience, Ryan Coleman with Hometown Realty knows what it takes. It's the right marketing. It's the right exposure. Ryan and April will use their expertise each step as they guide you through the home buying and selling process. Ultimately, it's about results.
You need someone you can trust that is committed to you.
You have a lot of choices, but the choice is simple. It's Hometown Realty.
Your friend promised we wouldn't be homeless.
He promised. He's doing everything to fix it.
You need to call and have him fix it now.
Hey, man.
Found us a house.
No, not yet. Let me call you back. We're working on it.
Ryan Coleman with Hometown Realty.
He says he's doing the best he can do, honey.
Well, he's taken too long. I knew we should have gone with Ryan Coleman.
Choosing the right agent is never easy.
Call your hometown experts. We'll take care of all the details and make sure you don't get stuck in a motel. Welcome back, guys. Real Estate with Ryan Coleman with Hometown Realty in the studios. If you guys are tuning in for the first time, if you ever need me, if you're thinking about buying or selling, you need our team, if we could ever be of service, I just want to make sure you have the number. You may have heard it thousands of times, but it's 693-SOLD, or you can visit me online at ryancoleman.org. So we're talking about buying. How do you decide when it's the first time? How do you know when it's really the first time, whether it's your first time or you've done this multiple times? How do you know it's a right time to actually purchase now in the market? Well, I've got a couple questions, things that I think are helpful when we kind of talk about the topic prior. We were talking a little bit about mortgage. We're talking a little bit about interest rates and your credit. But I had some questions here that I thought would be very, very helpful. So how do you know if it's ready, when you're ready to buy? And I said, if you answered yes to these 5 questions, you know that it's possible. So number 1, are your debts and credit in order? We were talking a little bit about credit and how important that is in the purchasing cycle. Number 2, have you saved money for down payment, furniture, and moving expenses? Don't forget the moving. We were chatting yesterday, one of our clients that is moving and selling. They said, Ryan, I got 3 or 4 estimates. And do you know that the estimates between the moving companies were, $2,000 and $3,000 a piece? He said, Ryan, I've got somebody that will bubble wrap the whole house. And then I got guys that I wanted the guy to get out. He stunk. He smelled like smoke. So that's why it's always important to shop around and kind of see what makes sense. But do factor in moving, or you'll be like me and we hired a friend, and that's eventful. Good for friends. Pizza and beer go a long, long way. But some of these moves really make sense to hire movers. Just depends on where you're at there. So can you comfortably afford your new payment? Number 3. So make sure, guys, when you move into your new home or you're thinking about purchasing, that you don't bite off more than you can chew. I know it's the dream home. It's forever. It's got all the bells and whistles. We'll talk more about things that come up unexpected, and we don't want you to be house poor and making sure that you maybe got into a price range. Even though you can afford it on paper, it just doesn't feel good, okay? Number 4, are you ready to settle down? I'm not sure what really that means, but settling down in that area, I guess that neighborhood, or are you somebody that's going to move every 5 to 7 years? These are some things that you need to think about. And let's say this is your first house, or we're selling one to a nice single individual. Things come up like fixing leaks and repairs. Are you handy, or do you have good people or family around that will help you if you have some maintenance issues? Because you will if you own a home. Those are 5 things to know that the questions, if you're ready to buy, if you answer those, I'd probably say yes. You're on the other side of the fence there. But let's think about this. We were talking about the interest rates. Let's talk about how having the best FICO makes sense for you. Let's talk about the lenders, our good friends, the lenders. Well, lenders, they're in the job of lending money, and they want to get the best deal, and they make money off of us on all the interest that they charge. So most of the loans out there are going to be factored in to a 15-year, to a 20, to a 30. That means they're stretched out or amortized over that period of time. So 30 years is a long time to be paying for your home. Most of these loans that we do, probably, I say in today's market, you're seeing a lot of 30-year mortgages, very common. And it's common because the payments are always the cheapest. But just because it's the cheapest, right, like a lot of different things, you kind of get what you pay for. When you get a 30-year mortgage, you're going to, the first 7 or 8 years is going to be weighted down in interest, meaning the banks kind of have this as a science that every 5 to 7 years, maybe 10 years, people are not staying in the homes. They're moving, they're relocating. So in the first 7 years, let's just say that your payment's $2,000 a month. Well, you may only have $1,700 go to, will go all to interest. Let's just face it, it'll go all to interest. The $300 may go to principal. So of the whole year, you've paid, let's say, $24,000. You've got $3,600 that's went to the principal. So in just a couple years, it doesn't take long, especially if the market corrects. You can see that you could even be negative on your home or not have the gain that you need to have. So keep in mind when you're shopping for your mortgage, the difference between a 15 and a 30 and even a 20 is an alternative option. Keep in mind that with your FICO score, if it's not where it needs to be, unfortunately, you may pay a higher rate, which would affect you can getting maybe a 15 or a 20-year mortgage. So keep that in mind. I always say that if you're planning to possibly know that you're going to move again, you want to definitely look at maybe making sure the rate is fixed. That way you don't have to come back and do an adjustable. We're doing several people that do some ARMs. ARMs are basically they're fixed for 7 years, and then they change with the LIBOR, basically the index of the market at that point. We know in the last 2 or 3 years we've been fairly strong. With any market, though, what goes up must come down, right? So keep in mind that if you lock into a 7 or a 5-year ARM, more than likely you're going to be in the market where the interest rates are going to be higher, and something that you want to make sure you can afford that if you can't sell that property or get the numbers to make sense for you in the process. So I think ultimately, does it make sense to buy? It's totally a decision that you need to make. But I think owning a home, of course we sell the product, right? We're in the sales business. We sell homes. But I really believe that home ownership is really a great value. I know it keeps communities stronger. I know a home for us, I remember when I was a kid, owning a home and having your own home and having your own bedroom. And you can do these things on rentals as well. But having that pride of ownership was big. And I know with my daughter and our first home, and that we were married, and my little one, and of course I've got a new one coming, those are memories you share with you. And, money's all great and everything, but that old saying, you can't take it with you, that's true. And a house is something that you make the home with your family, and is a great opportunity. So I always encourage everybody to purchase if you can, if it makes sense. Some people, it's not in the market to do so, right? If you're a young professional, you're never home, just doesn't make sense, then renting sometimes is a better option. We'll talk about that. And what kind of ownership or what kind of items will you come up with when you own your own home or a new home? Well, there's all kinds of things that can come up, and there's a lot of items that you won't think about it, from simple plumbing leaks to roofing leaks to a lot of people, if you're on septic or sewer, different things like that come up you would never even thought about to budget. So it's very, very important that you budget. I want to encourage you that we're big followers of Dave Ramsey, and he's big on this as well, kind of across the board with a lot of other financial gurus. But if you're looking for your next purchase, make sure that you keep your budget within about 25% of your income. Now, a lot of the lenders out there, they'll go 35%, 45%. A lot of our government stuff, you'll do 50, 55. They'll go as high as they can do to get the deal done. That doesn't always mean that it makes sense for you guys. So try to keep around 25 to 30% of your budget, and understand that's got to include taxes and insurance. So a lot of those things, and if you're not putting enough money down, you may have mortgage insurance. Now, that doesn't count utilities and all these other different things. And one of the things I think that why you want to keep it in the 25% is you got to factor in if you ever get that change in job. You got to factor in that, as I was talking, the mortgage market is great, but with everything goes up, it must come down. So the market can adjust, and it will adjust. So if you've not allocated that, understand that as well. Keep in mind, if you had a lot of job changes in your life and you're constantly moving, maybe purchasing doesn't make sense. Renting, it could be a good option. A lot of times, if you look at all the costs that we'll have with a purchase and things that we'll talk about, that renting could be a better option for you, at least on the short term. Really makes sense to do that. So some of the things that you won't think about, but there is property taxes, insurance, HOA fees, city assessment, water and sewer issues, and then things like that, where if you're renting, maybe you won't pay those, and maybe you won't need those. Just to give you a little mortgage update about the mortgage, kind of the resale market of the housing industry, the National Association of Realtors at the end of October says we're at 1.77 million units, down approximately 2.7 from September and 4.3 from 1 year ago. Unsold inventory is setting at 3.9 month supply. And we know that a healthy market is going to be about 6 months in the market. So we know it's a seller's market. We know it's advantageous for the seller, not so fun for the buyer. Will 2020 change? We're not sure. I expect to see a lot more inventory here as we approach the first part of January. But as we close out the end of the year, we're glad to be with you guys, and we're glad to help a lot of our sellers. We'll see you back here next week on Saturday. We've got a good show for you. I think we're talking about, I'm not sure exactly what we're going to talk about, but it'll be a good one tied into the winter markets. Thank you so much for listening to us. As always, every Saturday you can catch us here. If you need us, it's 693-SOLD. You can visit us at our website at ryancoleman.org. So, guys, have a great weekend. I'll see you next week.